Hi there, welcome to Module 4. This is an interesting module. Well, I think they're all interesting modules, but this one is about law and policies, which doesn't sound like it could be that interesting, but we'll get into that in a minute. And so I want to cover a couple of things. We've got some class business to talk about. I want to give an overview of the module. And then if you want to hang out to the end, I'm going to do a teaching tip about discussion forums, just a way that I manage them when I set them up for my own classes. So let's jump over to the syllabus. Let me do a screen share here. Just switch screens here. So I took some time last night because it was bothering me a little bit the way that the schedule was set up on the syllabus. So I reorganized it and I've uploaded this. So hopefully it will be a little clearer about what exactly you're supposed to do. So the schedule's way down at the bottom. So I organized each week into what you're going to learn and what the do part is. And the do part is what most people want to know. And so you could actually print this off and use it as a checklist. That's what I recommend my own students do. As I say, print this off, check off things when you get done, and then you know you've done them. It helps you keep track. So let's jump down to the second section because this is where we're at right now. And so I put the due date on here. We've got the 12/16 due date for the group activity connection. And so I've already had one or two project managers send me that information. Please, please, please make sure that you use the subject line that I put on the assignment. That's that 5E instructional assignment or instructional model. And that will help sort that in my emails so that I can make sure to see it. Subject lines are really important. We'll get back to that in just a second. And so as you go down, it should be a lot easier, I'm hoping, to see what the do part is. And I'm going to be opening modules 4 and 5 today. 4 is right now, 5 will be a little bit later on once I make the video for that module. And again, hopefully it'll be a lot easier to see. I put in big print or yellow print here, the deadline for the group project. And so you've got several weeks, you've got plenty of time to get it done. And then let me point out that there is one more pretty sizable project. So in this week 6, you're going to be creating a welcome video and a basic homepage based on the criteria that you learn in that module. And then in week 7, you're going to put together an introduction module, like an orientation module. And this will be on your own course management system, but it'll be in such a way that you can share it with others. So a lot more details will be coming down the pipeline for that when we get to that, probably when we come back. Well, we're not really going on a break because we're kind of working through the break. But when we get done with module 5, I'll try to open up 6 and 7. So that way you have everything all together and you can work on that. And just kind of put in your mind, like, what do I need to put? What do I want to put? What makes a good introductory video? What makes a good introductory module? And then we'll have more details about that. Okay. So, and our next reflection 2, we just got done with reflection 1. Our next reflection 2 will be at the end of that week 5. So the beginning of January. Now, let me scroll but way back up here. And it's really interesting. It's fun. It's fun to work with teachers because you run into the same problem that students do, but it gives you an opportunity to reflect a little bit on your own practices and how you can maybe present things a little better. And so it's super important that if you email me, you use this subject line, B30-your CRN, whatever that is, your name and the topic, okay? And I give an example here. Now, I can't even count how many people just sort of shoot me off a quick email without doing that. And there's some this morning that I just caught up that I got at some point last week. And I finally got around to sorting through my inbox and they were way, way down somewhere because they didn't use the subject line. There was a number of those. I want to answer your emails quickly, but you have to do your part. So when you use that subject line, my email program filters on B30, and that goes for stuff that you send me through Canvas as well, whether you're emailing me directly or sending it to me through Canvas. The key is that B30-CRN. because I have a filter set up and a rule set up so that when it sees that, it goes right into the folder. And I will tell you, that's an email management strategy. Have students use a subject line. Now, the trick is to get them to use it. Okay. And there's lots of strategies for that. You could kind of just tell them, I'm not going to see your email after the first week if you don't use that subject line. So they want a response. You want to respond. This is an easy way to keep it organized, especially if you're teaching multiple classes. Each class has its own CRN. The email goes into its own folder. Easy to find. At a glance, you can see what's new. So that's a bit on the syllabus. Now, if you were in one of the 9 Zoom sessions last week, it was a little bit crazy for me, but if you were in one of the 9 Zoom sessions, it was a super interesting, engaging, energetic. I don't know. We just had a lot of fun. It was interesting to hear all the comments. Okay. So I have 2 requests for the people that were in that, which is like about 100 of you. There was a lot of people between the 3 classes that came to Zoom. And so my first request is, I'm super curious about this. I want to know what your main takeaway was from the Zoom call, from the reflection Zoom call, in 2 ways. Pick one word. Like, was it interesting, boring, exciting, whatever the word is? Okay, pick one word. And then give me a paragraph that kind of explains what the main takeaway was. Okay, where you're going to put that is if you go to reflection 1, let me back up to the top of our homepage here. Actually, if you go to assignments, you can go down to reflection 1, and some people actually submitted, oh, it's not going to show me because I'm not in student view. But anyhow, some people submitted documents or papers or videos or whatever. But you can also put online text. So I'll put this in the announcement so you don't have to memorize it right now. But I'm really curious what your main takeaway is from the call. Okay. I don't know what it's going to be. So I'm just curious about that. The second thing about the Zoom calls is I'm putting out a call for help. If we weren't all teachers, I'd call it extra credit. But I don't know, do you guys need extra credit? I can give you extra credit if you want extra credit. But what I'd like to do is have 1 or 2 people, maybe 3 people. If you're one of those people that you love to sort through data and compile it and curate it, this is for you. I'd love to take all the different reflection pages. So each group had their own page where you put all the information, the know, want to know, and learn kind of brain dump. And then we had the top 2 from all of those. What I'm hoping is I can get a couple of volunteers. Let me back up over here. Whoops, oh, that's the right spot. I'm hoping I can get a couple of volunteers to help parse through all of those links. And then just let's make one master list. So across all 9 calls, across, oh, I don't know, there was probably at least 30 groups. Let's compile and see what everybody wants to know and what they've learned. And then there's a section down here for data collection. So this is the brain dump section. We just copy over, everything that everybody put, maybe organize it a little bit. And so these boxes will be pretty long probably, but mostly this is the summary up here. So I'm not going to go into that too much more. If you're interested, I will put the links up for you, and the link's going to be on this reflection page. I'll post it in Discord, and I'll post it on the Canvas announcement that will accompany this video. Let me know. It can be after finals are over. It doesn't have to be like by tomorrow. So let's jump back over to our module, to module 4. So this is a module that we sort of know a lot about, but there's always a lot more we can learn. Okay. So laws and policies. Our objective is to understand current federal and state laws and policies that relate to online learning environments that include, but are not limited to, because there's always more, but privacy rights, accessibility, equity, and cyberbullying. So the SLO we're checking off here is upon successful completion of the course, the student will be able to understand and apply state and federal laws and policies as they relate to online learning. And honestly, most of these things, it sounds like it's extra work, but it's actually creating good learning for your students. And so the first module, and I'm not going to go through all of these, the first module talks, or the first page talks about copyright. And there's lots of interesting things to know about copyright. And, because we hate it when our students grab stuff from other places and don't give attribution, right? We have a word for that. That's called plagiarism. Well, the same thing applies when you grab a picture, from somewhere and you use it. If it's not open access or free access, there's a lot of other issues there. The next one is privacy rights. And we talked about that a little bit in some of the Zoom calls about the idea of like, if you record the call, where do you put that? Because that could be privacy, that's privacy issues. And so, how do you handle that? This next section is accessibility requirements. And these are really simple guidelines so that if someone's with a screen reader or they need closed captioning, or it just gives them access to your class and makes your learning environment a more equitable place for all of the students. So how you're going to practice that, this is what I'm going to jump to, message your instructor. So this is an assignment. I love this cartoon. This is super funny. How to write an email to your instructor or TA. This is from a cartoon called PhD Comics, but it's not like PhD, Doctor of Philosophy. It's piled higher and deeper. So anyhow, they have really funny comics. If you've ever been to grad school, a lot of it will hit home for you. Anyhow, so I've gotten these emails from students. Dear professor, I don't get what we're supposed to do, but anyhow, you guys have gotten those emails too. And so you might even put this cartoon in your syllabus to give your students a tip off about how to write emails. So the objective here, again, is to touch base on these same two things, but we're going to apply what we've learned about accessibility to an activity. And so in this first part, what you're going to do is download this Word document, okay, and then open it up in Microsoft Word. And then there's a series of instructions that will ask you to make this document accessible. Okay, you're going to add some stuff, you're going to create some stuff. How do you make it accessible? And then you're going to close it. That's part one. Okay. Now, in part two, what you're going to do is send me an email with that document. You can send it through Canvas. That's fine. Send me an email. I'm being photobombed by a cat here, by the way. I apologize for that. He is very upset that I'm not jumping up to let him out the door. Anyhow, and he's letting me know about it. So watch the email etiquette video. It might actually be something you want to share with your students. I tell my students that one of the things they need to learn to do is code shift. Okay, maybe that's my linguistics background. If they're writing a message to a buddy, they're going to talk one way. If they're writing a message to the President of the United States, they're going to talk another way. If they're writing a message to a professor, there's a certain level of formality that should go along there. It's also in the continuum of things like text messaging to research papers. So text messaging, it's real short. You use text, short code and all of that. Not a problem. Chatting, like if you're chatting on Discord in real time, you can get away with that a little bit. But an email is a little more formal. An email is something where you have time to think, like you don't have to hit send right away. And so you should compose your thoughts in a way that reflects you. And oh my goodness, I have this super good email unit that I teach my class. I have examples of horrible emails that I show them, and they're like, oh my gosh, I would never send that, but some of them do. But hopefully it brings it to light a little bit. Anyhow, we're all professionals here, so I'm not too worried about a lot of that. I don't think like text chat's bad. Like it's almost a dialect. It's like a written dialect for that format. But here in email, we want to be a little more formal because, tell your students what I see, like what your professor sees, that's sometimes the only contact they have with you, unless you've done that intro video. But anyhow, so what you're going to do is go to the Canvas inbox. You're going to send a message, follow the instructions here. Again, we've got a subject line. So make sure you follow that, attach it, et cetera, okay? And so just go through here. This isn't a real long, it's not a really long assignment. I don't think it'll take you very long. It's just practice, but it might be a good assignment to mirror to your own students kind of in that orientation week. You know, can they send you an email that's reasonable? So let me stop screen sharing here for just a minute. And all right, I had to go let the cat out. So let's talk about discussion forums for a minute. This will fall under like teaching tips. So if you don't want to hear this video, you know, the overview for the week is done. I don't know about you guys, but discussion forums strike fear and terror in my heart. Now, they have a good intention, right? We want students to engage and talk about big ideas and, you know, communicate what they're thinking, all of that. It's all good. That's all good, right? I mean, the intent of a discussion forum is good. Where the hangup comes is in grading the discussion forums. I don't know about you, but I've had my share of make the original post and 2 or 3 replies as a student. And it always feels very forced. Like you have to find somebody and you have to say, oh yeah, that was really interesting. Anyhow, you know what I mean, right? It's really forced. And then from the grading side of it, you have to go through everything and you have to like check off, did they make the original post? And here's the other 2 posts. And it just takes all the fun out of replying. Like you can't engage in the forum because you're busy checking off things. At least that was my experience. So when I was in graduate school, I had a professor that would do discussion forums in a certain way. And I thought, wow, that's really interesting. And I tried it with my own classes. It was like the best thing since sliced bread. So this is just an idea. You don't have to do this. You might want to experiment with it. I can share with you the grade rubric that I use that I'm going to show you. But in a nutshell, now when I do discussion forums, I do them in a 3-week cycle because I like to let students go deep. And so I'll set up students in small groups, depends on how large your class is. Probably 4 to 6 students is a good size group. I wouldn't go a whole lot larger or a whole lot smaller. And I set them up in groups and I launch the discussion prompt, whatever the discussion topic is. And I tell them, discuss this in your group. In your small group, have a conversation about whatever this is. Everybody get involved. And that's week 1. In week 2, I say, okay, now what you guys need to do is synthesize this into a single post that represents your group. And so they have to have more conversation about that. You know, what does this mean? And do we have any disagreements or can we come to some, you know, common ground here? And so they deepen their knowledge a little bit more and they come up with a single post. And then I ask them to post that single post to an all class forum. So on the all class forum in week 3, let's say you've got a class of 30 and you made groups of 5. So you've got 6 posts. Okay. So in week 3, everybody reads the group posts, but instead of reading, you know, 30 posts, they're reading 6 or however many it works out to be. Okay. And so they can have a chance to read more in depth. They have a better chance to respond in an intelligent way. And so in that 3rd week, the all group post, you know, sometimes I put a number on it. It depends on how many groups there are. Like if there's 10 groups, that's a lot of posts to reply to or to engage with. But I put it in the context of continuing the conversation. So group 1 or week 1, the group discusses the prompt. Week 2, the group synthesizes, analyzes, and synthesizes the prompt into a single post. And in week 3, everybody reads the group posts and engages there. So how do I grade that? Well, let me show you how I grade that. I'm going to do screen share. And this is the rubric I use. And so, and I let them know this up front, okay, that class participation is critical. Engaging in interesting discussions is, you know, a key point to their learning, but that I'm going to let them pick the posts I grade them on. So at the end of the cycle, And I do this with a Google form where I just have these 4 sections. I say, you're going to give me 4 posts. The first post is something you wrote that best represents your ability to build knowledge in the community. So go back through all your messages and give me your best work. Okay. It could be on the single group. It could be in the synthesis part. It could be in the all class form. And then the second one, give me a message of a peer that represents knowledge building. And so what that does is that makes them pay attention to what people are posting and how valuable it is. And then the third one, a message where you helped a peer build their ideas. And so instead of just a reply and saying, well, that's nice, you've actually added on or extended or, done a paradigm shift, something where you've replied in such a way that you're building on the ideas. Okay. And then the last one, a message from a peer who helped you with your work. And so what I'm doing here is I'm saying, you invest in your writing, but also pay attention to what other people are writing and help other people, but recognize when other people help you. And so I know it sounds a little bit complicated, but really then all I'm grading are these 4 posts. And I have a rubric down here, that I use. I'm starting to go to a single point rubric, but I haven't done that on this one yet. And there's basically just 4 main criteria. Does it meet the requirements of the activity in a timely manner? Like, did they submit things on time? Did they cover all the bases? Adds insightful or new ideas and comments or questions relevant to the activity and other students' posts. Does it appropriately reference readings, materials, and course sessions? So I'm kind of looking at the quality of the post. Does it cover the bases? And then, do they write clearly, concisely, and grammatically? So that's not like a miracle wonder drug for discussion posts, but I will tell you, when I started using that format, it cut down on my migraines like unbelievably, because having to go in and nitpick people's posts and read every single one was mind numbing. And what it did is it freed me up to actually be able to go into the form and engage with the conversation without having a checklist next to me to check things off. Anyhow, so hopefully you found that to be a useful tip. So we talked about some class business. The syllabus has been updated and it's updated in Canvas. So you can just go to the syllabus link and get that. Oh yeah, engage in your groups this week. Make sure if you haven't touched base that you already do, that you touch base with your group and get those couple of things done from last week. And the Zoom reflections. If you attended a Zoom call, I'd love it if you would just take a few minutes. And I know this was kind of an afterthought thing, so I didn't do it up front. I apologize for that. But just take a few minutes and think back, and if you can share with me what your takeaways were from that. And then I went over the modules. So we talked about a little bit about copyright and privacy and accessibility. And there's that one activity where you have to edit the document and send it to me. And then my discussion forum teaching tip. So I hope you all are making your way through finals. This has been a busy couple of weeks, and we have a busy week or 2 ahead if you're grading stuff like I am. So have a good week, and we'll see you soon.